Hi there, this is Tata, and welcome to the TNA Post Show. As always, I'm joined by my co-host. He's the star of the show. He's the one and only Burt Macklin.
How's it going?
It's going good. I think we got quite a few things to talk about tonight. It's been a crazy week, so to speak, you know?
Yes.
All right, before we get into tonight's show, as always, we always like to talk about anything Impact related that happened on NXT. This week was no exception. Hammerstone getting a massive win over Tony D'Angelo. I'm so happy Hammerstone has getting the opportunity to show what he can do in NXT. We got my dream match last week, Obafemi versus Hammerstone. I can't wait to see if Hammerstone continues to appear on NXT.
Who knew Tony D was such a TNA fan? Basically just giving Hammerstone the win. I appreciate that. That was nice of him.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you. Thank you to the Don.
Yeah, we definitely do need to give him thanks for giving Hammerstone the win. That's not the only thing that happened. Wesley showing some revealing footage showing the reason why Trey Miguel was not at ringside was because he attacked Trey Miguel.
And kind of giving a payoff to why they didn't get their tag team title match. So this was good.
Yeah, I really did like that because, I'm not sure what the real reason was that Trey Miguel was there. But I think that this kayfabe explanation was a great way to explain things.
Completely agree.
So, all right. You got any more comments on NXT before we move on to Explosion?
No, but I would say if you're a TNA fan, just kind of keep watching just because also, this show is TNA as well. But it just seems like they're doing more and more. It just keeps increasing to at least 2 segments a show on like each show, really. But you're going to get some sort of NXT or TNA, influence. So I would say watch both.
Bert, as somebody who doesn't watch NXT on a weekly basis, it's going to take a lot more than just the TNA segments to get me to watch NXT.
Well, as somebody who has just only recently started watching WWE regularly again, Raw and SmackDown, I usually only watch NXT because I find it the most. I don't know. It's very TNA in its presentation. I don't know. I just find it an easy watch compared to regular WWE programming. But I get it. There's a lot of wrestling on these days to watch.
If I watch NXT, I'd be watching wrestling 6 days a week.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Time to myself.
Yeah, it used to be only when there was Wrestling Monday and everyone was happy when we got it on Thursday. Now it's every night. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right. So before we begin Explosion, I just want to say, you guys know my feelings on Explosion. I feel like TNA could do so much more with Explosion. Why they're not, I don't know. I'm not happy that they're doing this one match Explosion. So going forward, if TNA continues with the one match Explosion, unfortunately, we will have to stop reviewing Explosion because it doesn't give us enough things to talk about during Explosion. As you guys know, we're not huge fans of single match Explosion. So hopefully they return to the 2-match format.
Let me ask you something. Do you think it's at all possible that the reason that they've went back to that on somewhat of a regular basis, the 1-match format, because now they have kind of NXT now, that they get to showcase some of their talent? There's just kind of they don't really feel a need to utilize Explosion as much as they had. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess, but you could still do so much more with Explosion. PCO's Digital Media Champion. Where does Explosion air? TNA Plus, that's digital media. Have PCO defend every week on Explosion. There's 2 matches. You could do that and another match. You don't have. You can even give us 3 matches if you like. But all I'm saying is, Joseph was gonna ask me us if Explosion is a priority anymore since they have started this relationship with NXT. It doesn't seem like it is. Like at Explosion, it seemed like when it started was to showcase talent, and we saw a lot of talent come through Explosion. I definitely would like to see more knockouts talent be featured on Explosion. We need more knockouts. We're losing Jordan Grace. We just lost Giselle Shaw. I know Xia Lee's coming in and we just got Heather Reckless, but still, it would be nice to add a little bit more depth to the knockouts division.
It seems that is the main. It seems that's the main focus from the NXT side. On the TNA side is the knockouts, because it seems that the Arianna Grace is kind of like, the representation, and she's going to be bringing. I like how tonight she referred to two other people as two of her other good friends. It seems I really like what they're doing, and I think that's the one area where TNA needs help is the knockout. So
Yeah.
it seems like that's where the help's going to be coming from the most in terms of people coming to TNA.
Terrence has agreed Explosion is so underdeserved. Yep. I used to look up Explosion matches on YouTube if I couldn't watch it live. Now I don't find myself excited and watch for this recap to see if I should watch it. Thank you. I will say they could still, what they could do? They could actually feature NXT talent on Explosion. Maybe some up and coming talent NXT that's not all that ready. They could feature them on here.
Yeah, Explosion definitely should be TNA's version of Level Up in terms of how NXT has NXT Level Up, where they show, or AEW Dark or Elevation. Explosion should where they be showing people who rarely get TV time, like how they had Bhupinder on there, like Sinner and Saint, Hotch, and you know what I mean. Skylar, Zion, Quinn has been on there a few times, and then you know what I mean. But yeah, obviously there's so much they could do with it, but I just don't think it is a priority anymore because of I think they basically look at that'd be 3 chances a week to see. They don't need it anymore because how much TV time they do get on TNA on NXT each week.
And where the hell is Alan Angels? You could put the sound check on Explosion.
That's a good question. I was wondering that tonight, just because I remember I had mentioned a few weeks ago that I was watching. I believe it was Prestige, and it seemed that him and Sinner and Saint were some sort of a faction on the Indies, and I kind of wanted that to transfer to TNA. And I thought of Alan Angels tonight when we got, and we'll talk about it more later, but we got the Sinner and Saint tease, which I'm very stoked about if it goes where I think it's going. But yeah, where is Alan Angels? The sound check should be a weekly segment on Explosion.
I agree. All right, see, that would be a good thing because NXT stars could use exposure and the reps in the ring on Explosion. It would help both Explosion and these NXT stars looking to get experience in the ring, right? I was wondering the same thing. Is Alan on per appearance still, and they just aren't using him? Alan Angels is such an incredible talent. I hope they find something for him to do. Anywho, Explosion featured Around the Ring with Jason Hodge, and we've learned that he's a foodie. He really likes pizza. And we find out Gia Miller doesn't like Chicago or Detroit style pizza.
What is she? I didn't see it. What did she? I missed it. What did she say she liked?
She's never had pan pizza, but she mostly says that she's a foodie too.
Okay.
Yeah. So on this week's Explosion, we had Dani Luna versus Tasha Steelz. I thought this was a great match, but again, like it's not enough just to have a great match in a around the ring segment. We need more substance for Explosion.
Yeah. Again, I don't know why. Just because then what's the point of having it on? Again, my whole thing is, what's the point of having a show on the app when it's only available on the app to show things that are on the app? That just seems very redundant to me.
Well, it's actually available on YouTube on Tuesdays. It's available on the app first on Fridays.
I thought they got rid of their YouTube presence.
No, they still have it. They still have Explosion on YouTube's on Tuesday, though. Terrence says, great point. The soundcheck and so many vignettes and backstage segments and promos could still have 2 or 3 matches, make it a legitimate show. Exactly. I sound like such a freaking broken record. One of these days, I'm going to record myself ranting about Explosion and just insert it every time we talk about Explosion because I sound like a broken record. I've said this so many times over the last couple of weeks.
I don't think you do, just because I think your points are valid. So
thank you. Thank you. Hopefully, this week's explosion, we get a 2-match format. Always, unfortunately, burden. I won't be reviewing it because a 1-match format and around the ring does not give us much to talk about.
Yes.
Okay. So tonight's TNA Impact show kicked off with Alicia Edwards. You know, this show was a fallout from Victory Road. And let me see. Explosion is on TNA Wrestling YouTube. It's called September 13th, 2024. Okay. And she's basically mad at Masha because she blames Masha for the fact that she's no longer champion. She called out Masha Slamovich, and we find out that Masha speaks English. This is the first time she's ever spoken English. And I really like the fact that she spoke French, Russian, and then she revealed that she could speak English. If you look at Liz, she was like, "Oh my god," because like she was shocked that Masha spoke English.
This reminded me similar to when Bailey revealed that she could speak Japanese.
Good point. Good connection.
Yeah, no, I never heard Masha speak before. This whole episode of TNA, I think, really was the Masha show. Because, and it's interesting now because I kind of see Masha as a baby face now. From the segment to when she talked, from this segment to when she talked to the Hardy, we'll talk more. I don't know what you think, but I don't know. To me, she just seems like a full-blown baby face now.
It definitely does seem like they're putting her up as a babyface, and I do like the tease with Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich. As we all know, there is history there. Jordan Grace ended Masha Slamovich undefeated streak when she came to TNA. Arianna Grace, I really like the fact that Arianna Grace had a moment with her dad on TNA. That was sweet.
I like how he said, "You remind me of me." Like that was
right.
That was very funny. They play very well off of each other. Like it's so funny. Like you can tell like comedy runs in the family, and just their on-screen pairing. I don't know. It works very well. I hope that this continues.
All right. With Masha as a face, I could see her now talking in both English and Russian. Her English is incredible as far as it's not her first language. With Jordan Grace all but going to WWE by Royal Rumble, this was putting up Masha to take over the Knockouts division. I agree. Excellent point. I wonder who Arianna Grace said with one of her best friends. I don't really watch NXT, so I don't know who her best friend is, but apparently they're going to team up with Jordan Grace to face Rosemary and Wendy Chu. I did like the Santana Morella called Eddie Edwards Eduardo because Eddie is short for Eduardo. That was funny.
See, that's what I'm saying. She's called everyone that she's brought over one of her best friends because obviously at first I went to Carmen Petrovic just because I watch NXT and it seems like she's called her that on NXT before. But yeah, I'm very interested to see who she brings over.
Okay, even though this was not the following segment, we're going to skip over the Josh Alexander one because the Masha Slamovich segment ties into this.
Yes.
We'll get back to the Josh Alexander segment right now. So backstage, you have that interaction with Masha and Jordan Grace, which I actually dug. I cannot wait for another match between them. And we also get to find out that Masha Slamovich is dream come true by teaming up with the Hardy Boys, as she showed a photo of baby Masha with the Hardy Boys.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is when the babyface turn first kind of popped into my head, just because, just like the way that, you know what I mean, like the way that the Hardys kind of embraced her, and like that she knocked on their door and thanked them. That's just where I hope that they go now.
Joseph says, Arianna is so annoying. Not everybody's the best friend. It will be interesting to see who Jordan teams up with next week to face Wendy and Rosemary. Also wonder what Havoc thinks of all this. Yeah? Yeah, we haven't seen Havoc since Ash by Elegance took her out.
Yeah, I'm not one that like checks the roster page. Is she still with TNA?
Oh, I
currently?
haven't checked. Actually, you know what? I checked the roster page a couple minutes ago and I totally forgot to look for her.
I know
I'll check.
people. Yeah, I know. I'm not one to check it regularly, but usually I'll pay attention to when somebody will post something that somebody's not on there. But I haven't seen anything about her.
Oh, yeah, she's still on here. She's in between Hammerstone and Heather Reckless.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we get Josh Alexander, and like Eric Young approaches him and basically reminds him that a lot of young guys look up to him and that he's a leader and it's time for him to take it seriously. Now, this is interesting considering what happens later on in the night.
Definitely.
So I'll talk more about it when we get there, but I definitely do think that there might be something brewing there.
I hope so.
All right, so we get a tag team match, First Class versus Sinner and Saint. You know, Sinner and Saint are too talented to not be used in the tag team division. You know, when they were signed, I was like, oh, okay, they're gonna add to the tag team division, but where the hell have they been? They haven't been using them in a while.
Well, it kind of seems like that happens a lot with when TNA signs people. It takes them a little bit to bring them in where they're regular character. You know what I mean? Because it's not like we see like Leon Edwards, for example, has only had a few matches, you know what I mean, since being signed. And I know that's probably more so because Visa maybe just coming from a different country. But yeah, I was very, very happy to see the return of Sinner and Saint just because, again, I've seen them a few times on the indies, and I just think that the potential there is very high.
Definitely, I do agree. I'm happy they're back. You know, speaking of when we talked about how Explosion used to showcase talent, Sinner and Saint were one of the talents that will feature on Explosion. So, first guy, what?
No,
First,
it's just funny, like TNA Explosion people and the people running that, even though we're not talking about you, us complaining about you is still giving you some sort of coverage. So whether we're talking about you in a negative light when you're not doing what we want you to do and showing 2 matches, we're still talking about you. That's all. You just made me laugh.
right? Sorry, my window's open. So massive victory for First Class, getting a win over Sinner and Saint. Hopefully, First Class starts picking up wins after this.
The segment after was what was more intriguing to me.
We got a Mike Santana promo, and he's basically like telling JDC he's gonna like make him bleed, pretty much. Hyping up the Texas Death Match.
I had said earlier in the night, just in one of my group chats that I'm in, that good on like no disrespect to Ortiz, but I think Santana every week that he's on TNA just kind of proves that good on him for taking a chance, seeing what maybe we didn't see that. Because you look up and down wrestling history, when a tag team, when a big time iconic tag team breaks up, there's always going to be wonder if the people could go solo if they're capable of it, So it's like I didn't necessarily think that he couldn't, but every time that he cuts promos, I'm more convinced that this guy's a home run main event guy that TNA landed on.
I agree. And I was at Rebellion when Mike Santana showed up, and it was so cool because I was where I was. He walked right by me. That was cool. So we get a Speedball Mike Bailey interview, and we find out he's going to be teaming up with Leon Slater and Kushida to take on ABC and Zachary Wentz. This is going to be an incredible match. And I cannot wait for it.
Yes. Wow. That should be good.
Yeah, I definitely think that will probably be match of the night. All that X-Division talent, like this is going to be an X-Division showcase. Chris Bay, Ace Austin, Speedball Mike Bailey, Leon Slater, Kushida, Zachary Wentz. They're all amazing talents, and this is going to be such a fun match. I cannot wait.
Yes.
TNA was lucky that Santana wanted to come back to build his singer's career and reintroduce himself. Yeah. So we get a quick little backstage segment with SDL and PCO. Basically, he wants to get his hands on Matt Cardona, and SDL tells him to wait, and that it's not time yet. And this leads into Matt Cardona versus Rhino. This match ends in a DQ because Matt Cardona hits Rhino with the chair that Rhino got from under the ring to the ribs, and then hits him with the radio silence. And then PCO, comes out and gets his hands on Matt Cardona. This is definitely building to a match between PCO and Matt Cardona. It's unfortunate that Steph Delander needs to get surgery, but I do feel like she would have been involved in that match in some capacity.
I hope that they find a way to keep her around while she's rehabbing her injury. So just to kind of keep the story moving.
Yeah, she doesn't need to get in. She doesn't need to get physical. I mean, look at Lish. She went out there with a neck brace, and she was still like,
yeah,
But PCO showing Matt Cardona what he's gonna do to him by using a chair. I mean, he took his frustrations out on that chair.
I know. That chair had a family.
That chair didn't do anything to him.
Yeah.
All right. Arianna Grace, she gets a little quick promo, and she reveals Spitfire's opponents as Kendal Gray and Carlee Bright because she wants to see Spitfire defend their tag titles against new competition. Now, you've mentioned this. Io has mentioned this. It's about time that TNA used NXT's women for their Knockouts tag team division. As we all know, the Knockouts tag team division is severely lacking. They lost so many teams, more than they can replace. So it would be great for them to use the NXT women's tag teams.
Yeah, because TNA has women's tag team titles full time. NXT doesn't, unless they just happen to have someone from WWE main roster coming down. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is where they should be using a lot of that extra talent that NXT has, because, you know what I mean? They have a deep women's division. It's very, like, when you see some of the backstage segments, they have a lot of women in the locker room. So, if TNA can use any of them, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, like it would be nice, get the women who are not involved in the storyline and bring them over to TNA for a little bit. They don't have to win the Knockouts tag titles. Just bring them over and do like a storyline with them, just to give more depth to the Knockouts tag team division, which is right now unfortunately severely lacking.
Well, yeah, because you don't have to have just because the Knockouts tag matches don't have to be leading up to their feuds. The singles matches involving the people in the match, the tag champ should always have matches against, whether it's like local competition or other teams every week. You know what I mean? Like that's the division should be more than just the number 1 and number 2 teams.
Another idea for Explosion: you can showcase more Knockouts tag teams on Explosion,
Yeah.
And potentially sign them. Yeah, that's another idea. I hope TNA is listening.
Yeah. Get on it, TNA.
Joseph says, a nice way for the fans that don't know who Carlee Bright and Kendal Gray are to get introduced. Kendal is a strong woman. If you watch NXT, she threw around miles, born like nothing. Okay, I may not watch NXT on a weekly basis, but I have seen that the couple times that I did watch NXT, that did happen. Cool that the TNA Knockouts tag team titles were on the line. This is what I want. NXT teams to try to win those titles and feature the Knockouts tag championship defender on Explosion. What if Explosion had title changes? Exactly. Or you know what else you can do? You can send the Knockouts tag team champs over to NXT as well.
Yes.
You could send them, instead of making over tag teams, you can also send them over there. Have them defend on NXT.
they're the ones that should be having open challenges over there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of women that aren't being used that they could potentially use for this. All right, so it's the Knockouts Tag Team title match, Spitfire versus Kendal Gray and Carlee Bright. I thought this was a fun match. Like Joseph said, it was a great showcase of Kendal Gray and Carlee Bright, especially for the people that don't know them, people like me that don't watch NXT on a weekly basis. They're great. I definitely would like to see more of them on TNA.
The match at Bound for Glory, we need to do everything we can do to try to. It should be Fatal Influence versus Spitfire for the titles. Fatal Influence is Fallon Henley, Jasmine Nix, and I'm blanking on the third one. Yeah, I'm hoping that they come to TNA just because I think that there's massive, beautiful people similarities, and I think that really plays in TNA, and I think TNA would recognize that, the fans especially. So yeah, I think that's a natural match that should happen. I just want to add to the Knockouts tag team division.
I would be so disappointed if at Bound for Glory they don't do something major for the Knockouts tag titles. You know, again, there's what, 6? How many weeks did they say? 5 weeks? They said 5 weeks, right? There's 5 weeks. Have Spitfire go to NXT. Bring more NXT women over here to challenge Spitfire. You could do kind of like maybe like a 4-way. You know, 2 teams from TNA and 2 teams from NXT.
Well, and I'm also hoping Spitfire gets a decent run before the eventual reign of Trademark.
We'll get into that in the next segment.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name, but yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so Spitfire is obviously victorious. No surprise here. Joseph says, amen, Doctor. We had Jordan defend on NXT. She was the first TNA champion to defend. Spitfire would go over so good in NXT. Danny performed in NXT UK with Subculture. Oh, okay. I think I heard about that, right? Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan, Subculture. I think that I did hear that they were in NXT UK.
Yes,
so,
go ahead. Yeah, well, that's because Flash Morgan was there, but obviously before Andrews was there, but Andrews was in TNA for a little bit before he went to NXT UK. But yes.
Okay. All right. So next we get a segment with a tag team that you like to call Reckless Elegance. Make sure you copyright that, and if that ends up becoming the official name, we need to give Bert here credit because he came up with that.
And you know what? This is more. I want to, especially if Ash sticks around. If this is a good partnership, they have this is like a good team. If it becomes a team, I would want to revisit after this if Ash gets another world title run because a shot because I think that she was unjustly kind of shoved into that position too soon just because of the lack of contenders. I think she should have been in this slot from the beginning. You know, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Just kind of mentoring or taking someone under her wing, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that they seem to be doing something like that.
To be totally honest, I thought this is what they were going to do with her and Xia Brookside. I thought that they were going to go this out with them, but they didn't. Like you said, they shoved Ash by Elegance too soon into the title picture. But I'm hoping that, you know, her doing this tag team and they ultimately win the Knockouts tag titles, you know, even if they only have like 1 reign or 2 reigns, eventually Ash should make her way back to a world title picture.
Yes. Again, I had no problem with the end goal, her being someone that they tried to book like that, but just for the fact that when they booked her, it was like 2 matches against really no one, and then a match against Xia, and then she has a title. You know what I mean? It just was way too soon. And again, you can say, like, to make a comparison, this isn't Julia going to NXT with loads of credentials and getting a title match in her second match. no disrespect to Ash, but I think she was a 24/7 champion. And at one point she was like with Charlotte and then just kind of bounced around. They never really did anything with her. So just it's a little hard for people to you got to be able to believe that she can beat Jordan. And I don't think anybody did.
I have to agree with you. I didn't think for a second she was going to be Jordan Grace, and I think they expedited her too quickly to the title picture. That's not something that TNA usually does, as you can see with everybody else. They didn't skyrocket them to title pictures. You know, they took their time building them, and with Ash, it seems like she went on a detour, and now they're putting it back. You know?
Yeah, and this is very good. I like this whole segment with her and Heather Reckless. Heather kind of asking her and Iceman to watch her match, and then them saying, "Well, think about." You know, I really do like this.
Same. Hashtag Reckless Elegance. Copywritten by Burt Macklin. It feels like sometimes they don't know how to find challengers for Jordan because maybe TNA was shocked that Trinity came home to be Naomi. No, I think everybody kind of knew that's what was going to happen. I think the problem here is that they were probably building up Giselle Shaw, but she requested her release.
And obviously a big part, even going back further, they lost in relatively the same amount of time, Deonna and Trinity.
Yeah.
And like, it's one thing if you lose one of them, but they lost both. And then the person that they're kind of positioning, because from when they did the segment with Giselle where she kind of went back to where I think she went to like Gail's house, I thought, okay, this is like the major push. And they started calling her the quintessential knockout. I thought, okay, this is it. Like they're gonna, because she had the match where she lost before that. So I thought that she was the next one. And then so now she asked for her release. So it's like, you know, really it kind of made who else but Ash at that point. You know what I mean? Because Masha was in a tag team, and really they hadn't had her do anything major in the singles division in a while. She hadn't really won anything big time. You know what I mean? So it's like, who else but Ash?
Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate. They lost two great talents back to back. But hopefully with the addition of Xylee, and we'll talk about her when we get to the vignette, you know, at least so we start. We need more knockouts. That's what we need. That's why I hope that they utilize NXT women more.
I hope.
Okay. Joseph says, feels like an ode to Ash's old character, Dana Brooke, trying to suck up to Charlotte Flair and Dirty Heather sucking up to Ash. I didn't make that connection, but good point.
You know, especially now, I feel like there's so many storylines that like mirror each other a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, I could see that.
Right? I could see it too, now that he brings it up. All right. So next we get this Texas death match is JDC versus Mike Santana. And they were not playing around. Let me tell you, they were not playing around during this. Like, I mean, Mike Santana made JDC bleed. JDC busted open Mike Santana. There was a lot of blood in this match.
This match reminded me just kind of like just the way that they went around the ring a little bit, just kind of reminded me of like an old Attitude Era hardcore match, how they would be battling in the concession stand. Maybe they might be outside in the snow. This was so fun. And I remember seeing on Twitter, like a little before, that this was a must-watch match. And usually when people say that, you know, it could be a little bit of, you know, they could be, you know, overhyping it, but I don't think so on this. This was very awesome. I didn't expect there to be color, you know what I mean, for blood. Yeah. But this was so good. But the only thing that confused me, and why did they, after he got the 3 count, they start counting 10? I thought in a last man standing match there is no pins. that was a little confusing to me, but other than that, I didn't really. It was a great match.
It wasn't a last man standing. It was a Texas death match.
Okay, so it's a pin and then a 10 count, right?
No, they said that the only way to win was to get it was by, I think that your opponent can't stand up to a 10 count.
Okay.
Which is, I guess you can say a last man standing match pretty much.
Okay. But yeah, this was awesome. It's really amazing to me. I didn't watch a lot of WWE with Dango, but what a signing from TNA. He's way better in TNA than WWE.
And I think that's the one we've talked about this before. I think that's the one thing that TNA does well. They know how to showcase talent, use them to their strengths. Look what they did to AJ Francis. I was not the biggest fan of Top Dollar, but him coming into TNA, at first I was like, really? But he won me over with his character. And it's all a testament to the way they book their talent, you know?
Yeah, I think I like you just said, they're gonna accentuate the strengths and hide the weaknesses. Like, so every time Top Dollar is on screen, you're seeing all the things that he's good at. And in WWE, people are gonna remember obviously the flop dollar spot, but notice how in TNA they have him work. I don't think he ever did a choke slam in WWE. And that's a picture. What? Yeah, and look how good it looks. And people are selling the shit out of it for him. So yeah, again, TNA just sees whether. I think a lot of times too, WWE will just want maybe like a gimmick or them to fit that kind of style. So, and it doesn't work for everybody.
Joseph says, I think they changed the rules. Mickey and Deanna had a Texas death match, and they had to pin and hope their opponent didn't announce a count of 10. This was basically a last man standing.
Yeah. I didn't care. That finish, that splash, just this whole match was so awesome.
It definitely was. Vince treated Hit Row as a joke. When AJ felt at that leap in the day he was released and had diabetes too. AJ has improved on the indies. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah, AJ Francis has definitely improved since his release, and he's killing it with his character. But I have to say, this was a no DQ match. Where the hell was the system? They left poor JDC out there all by himself.
I think they just wanted to let JDC prove himself. You know what I mean? He can't handle one. Well, Moose did come out there at the end.
Yeah, at the end, after JDC lost, he could. Moose, okay, I know Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers had a match, but Moose didn't have a match. He could have gone out there and helped JDC.
Well, the logic of that is basically that we want heels to do babyface things sometime and help their friends. And that the champ or the big star never sacrifices himself. You know what I mean? You got the lackeys do that work. You know what I mean?
They poor JDC out there getting busted open by Mike Santana, and nobody could help it. Moose decides to show up at the end after Mike Santana had already won this match and then beat the crap out of Mike Santana with the steel chair.
It's like that video. I mean, that's that from back in the day when they had Vincent from the NWO go kick the Sting dummy in the ring, and it turned out to be really Sting. And then he beat him up. They let JDC out there just to get his ass kicked. I agree with you on that. That's true.
Poor
Santana Moose is going to be so good, and it just shows. I think a strength of any company is the feuds that don't involve titles, and this isn't involving a championship. This is a blood feud. You know what I mean? This is going to be really good.
Oh, definitely. It's going to be good. All right, next we get Sinner and Saint, and this is what we alluded to earlier. Josh Alexander approaches them. Remember, Eric Young told him that a lot of young guys look up to him and that he needs to start taking this seriously. He told Sinner and Saint that if they ever need advice or help, not to hesitate to reach out. Are we potentially building a faction here? Josh Alexander and Sinner and Saint. Let me tell you, I'm digging that idea. That would be a fantastic faction. And just have them run rug shot through TNA.
What are the chances this also involves Eric Young turning on Macklin and joining them? Or do you think no? Do you think Eric? Because I think I'm leaning towards, because when Eric Young said that, and then he approaches right after that, Josh approaches two young guys. You know what I mean? But I think more so they'll just turn heel. You know what I mean? They're going to turn heel with and align with Josh. You know what I mean? I personally hope Eric Young doesn't turn on Steve Macklin.
Same. I hope they don't. And where's Lucha? Shout out to Lucha Canada. Team Canada 2.0. I know Lucha was plugging Team Canada for the longest time. So if you're watching, Lucha, this is for you. But yeah, with Sinner Saint and Josh Alexander and even Eric Young being Canadian, will we see another Team Canada here?
Are Sinner and Saint Canadian?
Where they were in Canada, I believe
if they are, Eric Young's definitely turning then. Eventually. I think that's where they're heading then. I think that's... I did not know that they were Canadian.
I could be wrong. I think that they are Canadian. Because I know they made their debut on the when they were in Canada.
Oh, for I think Scott, like Border City Wrestling, right? Or Scott's promotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both live in British Columbia, Canada.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see. I think we're heading towards a Team Canada 2.0.
Team Canada. So I could see that.
That would be good.
It would be. All right. So next we get another vignette and we find out that Xia Li or Li Ying Li is debuting next week. And I'm really excited for her debut. I cannot wait to see if how she's gonna debut. Knowing TNA, they're probably gonna do the typical enhancement match because they're gonna showcase her strengths. I think she's gonna be a heel. What do you think?
I don't know, because I feel like they have too many heels right now in the women's division. I feel like Jordan's really the only face. I guess Xia, but Heather turned heel, kind of aligning with Ash. Then you have Rosemary, who seems to be a heel. Tasha, Alicia's a heel. And it's not we have a confirmed on Masha, but you know what I mean? So I would rather her be a face, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if she's going to be a face, if she's going to be a heel. I'm definitely excited to see her debut. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I think she's definitely going to add depth to the Knockouts roster. And like we said earlier, TNA definitely knows how to play to wrestler's strengths. And I think this is not going to be any different. I definitely do think that they're going to showcase Li Ying Li the way she should be showcased. She didn't get much shine in WWE, but I definitely think she's going to get a lot of shine here in TNA. And I cannot wait for it.
Again, if anybody can book somebody successfully after not being booked successfully, it's TNA.
Yeah. Hands down.
Yeah. There used to be this guy. He was never a star. His name was Drew McIntyre. He became Drew Galloway. Star. Mm-hmm. Okay. They made a lot of stars.
Oh, yeah, they have. Look at Deonna Purrazzo, Steve Macklin, Josh Alexander, AJ Styles.
Shark Boy, Curry Man. Okay, maybe not. Maybe Johnny Swinger. He's still 27.
Brian Myers.
See, right now, Johnny Swinger should be teaming with the Outrunners. They're both the youngest. Oh my
god, I would love that.
That would be the team of the century. That'd be the faction of the century.
Oh my god.
But yeah, but no. Again, TNA, Morrissey,
Big
the
Bill.
list go again. Lashley, I think, had a better career in TNA. Christian, you could argue Kurt Angle was treated more of a big deal in TNA. Jeff Hardy, Gail Kim. The list goes on and on.
Yeah. If we continue to read off names, we'll be here all night.
Yeah.
All right. So next we get a Joe Hendry promo. And I thought this was a really entertaining promo by Joe Hendry. He gets interrupted by the king of TNA himself, Frankie Kazarian. And Frankie Kazarian is rightfully pissed. Don't get me wrong. I like Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in 252 pounds of pure motivation, the answer to all life's problems. But, he does deserve a world title shot. And he brings this up. He calls out Nick Nemeth. I like the fact that that Frankie Kazarian says that Joe Hendry sounds like Shrek and Groundskeeper Willie. If you don't know who Groundskeeper Willie is, he's a character in The Simpsons.
Yeah, at first I was like, what? But then I'm like, okay, I get that. You named, I think technically he named two, like, Groundskeeper Willies from Scotland, and I guess Mike Myers, I guess Shrek is from kind of the Scottish accent. I don't know. I guess that's funny. That makes sense.
I laughed. I laughed when he brought that up. But anywho, the short end of this is that we find out next week it's going to be Frankie Kazarian versus Joe Hendry to determine Nick Nemeth's #1 contender at Bound for Glory. Let me see. I said, Ella, I was waiting for Herschel Krusty. Oh, God, I can't say this. Herschel Krusty Krusty the Clown, or maybe Lord Zed of the Power Rangers. I'm curious to see if we get Zaya Lee presentation we got in D or Lee Ying and somebody else. Probably somebody else.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think Kazarian wins. I think Josh screws Joe. And yeah, just because I don't. Joe versus Nemeth doesn't make any sense. It's got to be Kazarian versus Nemeth. And I do think Kazarian wins the title.
God damn. God, I'm torn because on one hand, you do make a good point. But at the same time, I want Joe Hendry to become #1 contender. I want him to challenge for that world title and get his moment at Bound for Glory. You got to strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, but I bet you that there are some people who have more knowledge than me that will argue that it might not be the right time for him to be champion. And I, from the outside looking in, I'm saying, what am I missing? He seems over, and you don't want to blow it like you just said. You got to strike when the iron's hot. But I don't know. For some reason, I just think that Josh's successful heel turn has kind of maybe derailed this a little bit.
God damn it.
Well, I again, just because, and I guess maybe just because I always think that it always has to be baby face versus heel. So I just don't know if they'd want to do a pay-per-view with a baby face versus a baby face. There's just no heat in the match.
I mean, if you want to turn Nick Nemeth heel, you just have JBL go out there. If Joe Hendry does win, you have JBL go out there and cost Joe Hendry the match. And have Nick Nemeth act like he didn't know JBL was going to do that.
That's a really good point. If they could yeah. So you're saying if hypothetically, if they had Joe versus Nemeth, have Nemeth turn heel in the match and beat Joe?
I mean, if you want to, no, I said if you want to turn Nick Nemeth heel,
yeah,
you would have JBL cost Joe Hendry the match, and then have Nick Nemeth play it off like, oh, I didn't know he was going to be out there. I didn't know, when in reality he knew.
That's a very good point too. The next shows we have BFG, which is a big show. Then what? It's Turning Point and Final Resolution, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's it. Final Turning Point,
For the year.
Bound for Glory, Turning Point, and Final Resolution are the last 3 shows of the year. 3 major shows of the year. Yeah, Joe would be the right one if they want Nick to go to hell. They could have Nick be desperate cause Joe is more popular than Nick. It sounds. We'll see.
Joe is the more over name for the bigger show, the last big show of the year, which is Bound for Glory. The
That's
reason
what
I think
I'm
it's
saying.
also the reason I think it's Kazarian though is because it is a big TNA pay-per-view. Kazarian's a TNA original. It just kind of makes sense for him to get that spot. And I just don't think it's gonna I don't think Joe Hendry not being in the main event is gonna cause people not to buy this show. But you could be right. You know what I mean? I would rather them do what you just said. I think they need to find a way to turn Nemeth heel before then. Because Joe should win now. He should have been champion, you could argue, by now, but he's not. For whatever reason.
Joseph agrees with you. He says, yeah, Joe could do it a Turning Point when they bring it to WrestleCade over Thanksgiving weekend, but Brett has a point.
Yeah, WrestleCade's a good show to have something go down because of all, and JBL showing up at that show makes a lot of sense just because that's like a convention. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But how many times have we went and do a big show? Well, this is kind of deja vu a little bit. We said that Jordan needed a big opponent for whatever the Slammiversary. It was Jordan versus Ash. We didn't get Jordan versus Natty like we thought or we wanted. So you would think for the biggest show of the year that they officially are calling is Bound for Glory, that it should be a big match because no disrespect to Kazarian, Nemeth versus Kazarian is not a big match.
Yeah, we did talk about how it should have been Grace versus Natty at Slammiversary. We ended up getting Grace versus Ash, not the match that we wanted, but it actually ended up being Ash by Elegance best match in TNA. You know, silenced a lot of haters, myself included, because I was complaining about that match being the Slammiversary match.
I think the crowds just keep increasing. I think they got to give us a big match. So I think finding a way to give put Joe. So next week's going to be very interesting, like you said.
Let us know who you want to win, Frankie Kazarian or Joe Hendry, in a live chat or in the comment section down below, and we'll find out next week who will face Nick Nemeth at Bound for Glory.
Fuck, it's going to be a triple threat.
Maybe, we'll see. I don't know. So the main event, it's a 6-person tag match. The System and Tasha Steelz versus the Hardys and Masha Slamovich. This was a fun main event. I really love the fact that TNA does intergender stuff. So we had moments with Masha Slamovich stepping up to Eddie Edwards.
The funnest moment of the night was Ace and Bay taking away Alicia.
They just came
very funny. She just looked, because all of a sudden they're there and she looked so pissed off. God, this was good.
They carry her arm to arm into the back.
You know what I noticed too tonight?
What?
No wonder they kept the system together, because whether it was Alicia with that new, the system must be printing merch for them. They have that new jersey. They have that new intro with them, with all of them in the cartoon. You know what I mean? Good for them for keeping the system strong. Smart.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the longest Moose has been in a faction stable without turning on them.
Yeah, and I think it's probably just because this faction was built around him, opposed to him being in a faction.
That's true.
And every faction kind of needs, you can't have a bunch of guys gunning for the world title wanting to be trying to be in a faction. You need a clear pecking order. You need your tag team. You need your guy that goes out there and does your dirty work like JDC. You need your mouthpiece like Alicia, and then your champion. It's like the Four Horsemen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
JDC is the one that goes out there and gets beat up.
Well, yeah, as we saw, they left him out there alone to face Mike Santana.
That's a good role. Then you go back. There's good catering. That's a good role.
Oh my god. Joseph said, "LOL, Alicia screaming her butt off. She was crying like, help me, hello." Eddie couldn't run fast enough. Yeah. That's tough. We made great cases for both guys facing Nick Nemeth at the WrestleMania Wayne State University. I wouldn't be surprised if we get no winner next week and it's a triple threat. Could be. We gotta wait and see. But Masha, Slamovich, and the Hardys get the win over the system and Tasha Steelz. This was a fun match. I really dug it. And one thing we forgot to mention actually was Jeff Hardy paying homage to Wyndham Rotunda by wearing the Fiend Inspire face paint.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was. So overall, Bert, what were your overall thoughts on tonight's show?
What a good, a great return show. I also love just one of the comment Tom alluded to. We're on the road to Slammiversary. Yeah, this was such a phenomenal show.
I agree. We gotta stop paying. We gotta start paying more attention to commentary because Matthew Raywall be hitting some good one-liners.
There's a reason he won. He was in the top 3 of the the best color commentators.
Yeah.
In wrestling. So he is good. He's good for people paying attention.
Exactly. Okay. So I thought this was a fantastic show. Great Fallout show. This is how Fallout shows should be done. I cannot wait for next week. I am so excited for the road to Bound for Glory. Bert, where can people find you?
Just on X at BertMac11.
You can follow me on Twitter or X at @Talk all things wrestling, WWE, AEW, TNA. You can check me out on my YouTube channel, Rangers of Wrestling, every Monday, Wednesday, occasional. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every occasional Saturdays and Sundays. I also do stuff on Power Rangers. You like Power Rangers. And for all things TNA, you can check us out here every Thursday as we go over the weekly show. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and for the continued support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever we go live or release a new video. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.